Shore will come back, and it will come back stronger than ever.
Goosebumps will actually come up on your body to think that it's coming back.
Now, Sandy, the long road home. A special report, 6 months after the superstorm's devastation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Harry Martin.
And I'm Steve Lacey. First came Superstorm Sandy, then came the cleanup. Now we're on to the rebuilding phase.
But bringing storm-ravaged communities back to life really hasn't been very easy. Guidelines about how to rebuild are still up in the air.
New flood maps will bring new building codes. Some homeowners may have to raise their houses at a cost of up to $100,000. And if they don't build up, their flood insurance will skyrocket. For some people, it's too expensive either way.
Now, one shorefront town in Staten Island seems to have just given up. Now, instead of building, they're just taking buyouts. New York State wants to turn the community into marshland. John Huddy talked to people there about why they're just ready to pick up and leave.
The damage left from Sandy is still visible in Oakwood Beach, Staten Island. Fox Beach Avenue was devastated. 3 people died on the block, including a father and son.
If we don't take the buyout, what's our other option? We rebuild and maybe die the next time?
Samantha and Frank Langello are among the homeowners in Oakwood Beach who are taking a state buyout. You see, the state of New York wants to turn these high-risk coastal areas into buffer zones, giving it back to, as Governor Andrew Cuomo said, Mother Nature. Many residents would be paid the fair market value of their properties before Sandy hit, along with a 10% bonus. So far, 170 of the 184 homeowners in Oakwood Beach have signed on.
I'm not looking to make any money off of it. I just want to save our credit and not be forced into foreclosure.
There are concerns. Some homeowners, depending on where they live, may only be paid the post-storm value of their properties. Those details are being worked out. Joe Tyrone, a Staten Island realtor, is helping his neighbors through the process.
I think it's going to be an extremely fair process, and then beyond that, getting the bonuses in the enhanced area, I think is going to allow people to move on.
It's an understandably tough situation because even for those who say they will take the buyouts, they agree that they have an emotional attachment to the area, and that's why some are still desperately holding on to what they still have.
I've had 25 years of good times down here. My family was raised down here. What do you mean nobody should have ever lived down here?
Frank Lettieri rebuilt his home after the storm.
If you decided no, the only hope I have is a bag full of money from the state, then you're not going to see hope anyplace else. You're going to wait for that. Hope it's enough. Oh, I hope I get enough. I don't care if they give me $500,000. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want it. I love it down here.
So does Joe Cesny. His family has owned property along Fox Beach Avenue since the 1950s. His home was flooded after a storm in 1992, but this time was different, and he believes the next time will be worse.
It's going to be hard to leave, but I'm going to have to lose everything again. So in that regard, with some trepidation, it'd be easy to leave.
So one day, soon perhaps, the flags will be gone, and so will the homes. Back to the marsh and the thicket that was here before anything else. Only the memories will remain. From Oakwood Beach, this is John Huddy.
Governor Christie says that the Jersey Shore will be open for business this summer, but some towns are struggling to make good on that promise. It's all about who has money to rebuild and who does not.
Bill McKinn will never forget the night Sandy slammed his beachfront house in Belmar, New Jersey, dumping a massive chunk of the famous boardwalk right in his front yard. That was 6 months ago.
The boardwalk was in front of my house right here, and the sand was covered, and there was a guy with a truck that was stuck in sand right here that was trying to get past the boardwalk piece, and he said to me, we'll get this all back by summer. I didn't think it was possible.
In Belmar, the town's famous boardwalk was nothing but splinters and shards of wood strewn over dozens of blocks.
Belmar's had a boardwalk every summer since 1875, and we want to make sure that this summer was no different. At the same time, we have about 140 businesses, small businesses, that depend on tourists that come here. And without a boardwalk, we wouldn't have a robust tourist season. And one summer of poor revenue for those small businesses and those families would be devastating to them and then ultimately devastating to our community.
The secret of the rebuild of the boardwalk here in Belmar is something you really don't see. Take a look under here. The old pilings were only 6 feet underneath the sand. These new pilings go down 25 feet. That's something that is really going to help this boardwalk if another storm strikes.
FEMA is expected to pay close to 75% of the $10 million cost of Belmar's boardwalk. The other 25% coming from beach revenue.
How's FEMA been with you guys?
Outstanding. If we did not have FEMA, a small town like ours would be bankrupt trying to do a project like this.
So things look pretty good for New Jersey's larger shore towns like Belmar.
They came out of the gate first. As you turn around, you see they're getting it done. Other municipalities are nowhere near where Belmar is right now.
But it's a different tale just a few miles up the coastline in Seabright.
I only have 10% of the businesses open. I'm struggling to balance a budget. I still have debris and sand everywhere we look, and we've been working like dogs for 5 months and 2 weeks. Please watch your step.
Yeah, sure. Oh my gosh.
Back in December, this is the way Mayor Dina Long's home looked. She and all of her town's 1,400 residents were displaced by the storm. Unfortunately, not much has changed.
Half of our population has managed to get themselves home. Fortunately, half of us are still displaced, myself included.
So why is Belmar ready for the summer season and Seabright is still struggling? Chris Wood is the co-owner of Woody's, one of the few businesses in Seabright that is even open.
Belmar's a destination. Not saying Seabright isn't, but most of the people that come into Seabright go to the beach clubs and live right across the bridges.
Seabright is strapped for cash. It's blown through its $5 million municipal budget just to remove debris. It needs a new parking lot. So what about FEMA money?
We reimburse. So
they have to build it first and then you'll give them the money.
Correct.
Seabright doesn't have the money. Residents in Jersey towns like Seabright have fought tooth and nail for fair settlements from insurance companies. Add to that a newly mapped flood zone in many towns. Those new regulations add thousands of dollars to insurance premiums and jack up reconstruction costs so high that many people may not be able to afford it.
The boardwalk in Belmar is just about 1.5 miles long, built largely with federal funds. But the boardwalk here in Seabright is a mere 150 feet long, built entirely by volunteers.
It's volunteers that helped us clean up this town. It's volunteers who built us a playground. It's volunteers who are building our boardwalk. And it's volunteers who are helping these business owners and these residents try to get their lives back together.
Seabright Rising is one such volunteer effort based in a town trying to help itself.
They've raised over $1 million so far and provided $700,000 in direct relief to Seabright residents and businesses to help them get back on their feet.
What's the chance that you're open for Memorial Day?
Well, the beach is still here and it looks gorgeous. And so our beachfront and our beachfront amenities will be ready for Memorial Day.
But back in Belmar, business owners are looking forward to enjoying more than just the beach for the summer of 2013.
Even the governor of New Jersey is committed to a ribbon cutting on Memorial Day here on the boardwalk.
We'll be stacking them deep and selling them cheap. You can bet on it.
Town officials say that they will keep rebuilding well into the summer, and if it's sand and surf you want, well, that will always be ready to enjoy.
That's right. There's much more still ahead in our special report, Sandy the Long Road Home.
Including a look at the area hardest hit in Manhattan, why some fear that lower Manhattan will never be the same after Sandy.
Also, power outages, crippled mass transit and gas lines. The storm virtually brought us to a standstill. Find out what's being done to make sure we're better prepared going forward. Sandy ravaged lower Manhattan like nothing we've ever seen before.
The whole area was hit with a 13-foot storm surge. Streets and subways were flooded. High-rise buildings weren't spared either, as water rushed into the lower levels.
And as Tiwa Cheng explained, some people wonder if lower Manhattan will ever be the same.
I think that is a car just behind that telephone pole.
When Sandy hit lower Manhattan October 29th, the storm surge rose 13.9 feet, submerging cars in Battery Park and flooding basements facing the East and Hudson rivers. The rising waters also forced the evacuation of Bellevue and New York hospitals and did this. The Con Edison plant on East 14th Street was flooded, switching gear short-circuited and blew up. To avoid a massive blackout, Con Ed shut off power to all of lower Manhattan from 39th Street down.
Streets are still dark here.
This is what Battery Park looks like 6 months later. The boat dock and Pier A, both damaged during Sandy, are both still under repair. A few blocks east on Water Street, one office building still has its heating and cooling system outside, but the rest of the buildings are fully operational. By summer, Verizon workers say they will have replaced the telephone wires for the area with fiber optic cables. A fiber optic cable replaces 32 copper telephone lines. The head of Community Board 1 says 99% of the buildings in Lower Manhattan are back to normal.
Well, Lower Manhattan is pretty much open for business. You still have a handful of pockets.
One area of Lower Manhattan that clearly has not recovered from Hurricane Sandy is the South Street Seaport. For example, every store in those buildings behind me on Beekman Street is empty, as is nearly every apartment. And on the now fenced-off Front Street, the entire east side of the block is empty, all 94 apartments.
Normally at 2:30, before the hurricane, this place would be packed on a beautiful sunny afternoon. As you look around, there's maybe 12 people here. This storm destroyed everything.
Jeremy Holland has operated Jeremy's Ale House for 40 years in the Seaport. He says 80% of the businesses there are gone.
This is the worst we've ever had of anything. I was here for 9/11.
Jeremy is using his retirement money to keep his ale house open and save the jobs of his 20 employees. The flooded South Ferry subway station is still being repaired and will be for 2 years. But NYU and Bellevue hospitals are back and running, and the Continent plant on East 14th Street is fully operational. But what about the future if another Sandy hits?
Extreme weather is here to stay, and we need to include that in our day-to-day decisions of building.
A spokesman for the city says a comprehensive review and plan for the future will be released later this month. In Lower Manhattan, I'm Tiwa Chang.
Nothing was easy in the aftermath of Sandy, and not just in shore communities dealing with floods. All across the region, there was a gas shortage. Drivers were stuck for hours in long lines that stretched for miles just to fill their tanks. Officials eventually went to an odd even-day system based on license plate numbers. And lawmakers are calling on gas stations now to install generators to keep pumps flowing after natural disasters.
The storm also crippled public transportation, and power was out virtually everywhere in the tri-state, plunging people in the dark for up to 2 weeks in some areas. The cost to repair our systems is staggering, and part of the price tag is rebuilding better and smarter to withstand the next big one. Water gushing into the Hoboken PATH train station flooded New York City subway lines and commuter rail tracks damaged by debris in the suburbs. These are just some of the images that show Sandy's destruction to our transit systems.
We actually started planning for Sandy almost 7 or 8 days before the storm actually arrived.
Carmen Bianco is the acting president of the New York City Transit System. He says even with all the planning, the MTA was overmatched by Sandy.
The surge that we received was actually greater than the surge we planned for.
6 months later, nearly all service has been restored with a few lingering problems. A-train service remains suspended to the Rockaways. The South Ferry subway station, where sandbags still sit outside an elevator, is considered a total loss. But even on lines that are running, work still needs to be done to deal with saltwater damage.
Salt water is very corrosive. What we're looking at just in the subway system alone is about $3.7 billion worth of damage.
Without offering specifics, the MTA says going forward it will be examining ways to protect the system from future storms like Sandy. Meanwhile, NJ Transit says it's already looking at some preventative measures.
Along the North Jersey coastline, we're looking to build flood walls to better protect our system against the impact of surge. We're going to be making power poles that can withstand those hurricane force winds.
Like the MTA, NJ Transit's back on track, but it took a lot of work.
More than 3 miles of track was actually washed away as a result of the storm.
Power is a big key to keeping transit systems on the go, and we all know what happened after Sandy.
We serve 1.1 million customers, and virtually every one of those customers lost service as a result of this hurricane.
JCP&L says they had 13,000 people working on restoration. Still, it took nearly 2 weeks.
You always look to improve on how you restore customers. And during Sandy, there was a period of time where we were restoring 100,000 customers a day.
On Long Island, frustration with LIPA and its handling of the storm led to a massive shakeup of leadership at the utility. The CEO resigned, and Governor Cuomo's looking to have another company take over. JCP&L tells us one of the biggest lessons it learned after Sandy is customer communication is key.
We're starting text messaging and emails for customers to let them know so we can send them messages about their neighborhoods and when service is going to be restored.
Consumers may have learned a lesson from Sandy as well. Many say they'll never take commodities like power and gas for granted again.
That's right. And Jersey shore towns vow to be open for business this summer. But will the tourists come back after Sandy?
Coming up, a look at how the usually booming rental market is coming along.
Of course, summer rentals are the backbone of the tourist season in the Jersey Shore.
With all the damage Sandy did to the beaches, a lot of people are wondering if vacationers would want to come back.
Brenda Blackman hit the shore to see how the rental market is doing with summer fast approaching.
An awful lot of houses that used to rent are not available.
I get depressed just like looking at the houses on the way down.
One of the biggest challenges facing this summer's rental market is reassuring customers that a relaxing beach vacation can still be had at the Jersey Shore.
Now, a lot of people still have the images of all the damage that was done. How do you get that out of their minds?
It's hard to. Even now you come down, you drive around, you see the destruction, but it's getting cleaned up.
I think a lot of them are concerned about what they're going to find when they get here. I mean, we see every day it getting better and better.
Good afternoon, Children's Agents say while rental inquiries remain active, bookings are off by as much as 60 to 70%. Jeff Childers of Childers Sotheby's International rents properties in Monmouth and Ocean counties.
What about the percentage of rentals that you have available this year, especially compared to years past?
I'd say about 70% of homes are damaged and being fixed, so our inventory is quite low at the moment.
Numbers vary from beach to beach. In Lavalette, 90% of rental homes should be available, while in neighboring Ortley, the number could be as low as 20%. In some cases, rental properties are undergoing major renovations following Sandy. Unfortunately for some, they're simply listed for sale as is. Bob Pekarsky owns 2 homes, which he rents out in Normandy Beach. Both, including the beachfront location, were severely damaged.
At least the house is still standing. Some of the houses weren't as fortunate up the street. They were like pushed right into the street.
So how much rebuilding do you have to do to get ready for the summer?
We've already firmed up the foundation. Now that that's done, we just need to get the deck, the balcony, and the front porch, and of course the new heating systems and air conditioning systems, and then we're ready to go.
Emotionally, the shore's recovery takes its toll not only on property owners, but on folks in the rental industry as well.
It's hard to see. It looks different.
We just went to a friend of ours' house that's not there.
The shore generates about half of the state's $38 billion tourism industry. The folks who stay at the shore drive that business.
With all our friends and family and everybody else we know, we're all looking forward to start spending some time down here.
People got to get down here and really see that the place is back together. I think that's what everybody's afraid of.
I'm sure people will come back. I mean, not everybody can get on an airplane and fly away.
I think it's going to be a tough summer for all of us, but I think we're going to get through it and come out stronger than ever.
On the Jersey Shore, I'm Brenda Blackman.
Coming up in just a moment, a helping hand for Sandy survivors.
A look at some grassroots efforts to help storm-battered communities cope, rebuild, and survive.
Sandy battered the beaches, tore down trees, and damaged homes, but it did not break the spirit of the people living in shore communities.
In fact, Sandy managed to bring out the best in our neighborhoods. There was an outpouring of help that kept victims going, and in some cases helped them survive. And 6 months later, that help is still there.
Back in November, just 2 weeks after Sandy struck, President Obama paid a visit to Cedar Grove Beach in Staten Island. He surveyed the damage, comforted the stunned residents, and promised federal funding to help.
We're going to have to put some of the turf battles aside. We're going to have to make sure that everybody's focused on doing the job.
Now, 6 months later, the people living here say that help has been slow to come, but one constant source of aid and support's been Donna Graziano.
Hello, my loves. How are you?
Graziano, the driving force behind what's become known as the Cedar Grove Community Hub.
We basically started with a small barbecue on the other side of this parking lot.
That was just a day after the storm.
There was still water. The debris from everybody's homes were piled in the street. People just look lost.
Donna's come back every day since. Her hub may not look like much, a few tents huddled together, but the people she helps here say they wouldn't have made it this far without it.
It's been incredible. People from the very beginning, within days of the storm, they were down here barbecuing, They had clothes for people, cleaning supplies, whatever you needed.
All the supplies at the hub are donated, and Donna and her volunteers are still providing hot meals every day.
Okay, something else?
You know, a lot of them still can't live in their homes. So they come here, they watch TV, we talk, the kids play.
Donna says she's feeding about 100 people a day. The home's so damaged here, many are gutted. There's no kitchens, no appliances. Dominic Camarada works on his house daily. The hub gives his family a sense of security.
I tell my son, what do you want to eat? Dad, I want mac and cheese. I could run to the hub instead of getting in my car and running up to ShopRite. Donna's got it donated down here, and it's one less thing. I don't have to run a half a mile away to get food.
It's not just about the food. At the hub, people can get medical attention, legal advice, and help with navigating all the forms needed to apply for aid.
They're going into their savings. I know people that have nothing now, nothing left.
And the hub has become a community gathering place. People say it makes them feel like someone cares about them.
We lost everything: underwear, socks, shaving cream, shampoo. It's everything. She come in, she provide.
And after 6 months, Donna will have to relocate if she wants to keep helping. Her hub is on City Parks property, and officials have asked her to vacate to work on the beach. In a statement, the Parks Department says, quote, "This work is being performed in anticipation of the upcoming summer season, as well as to provide temporary emergency protective measures for the adjacent upland communities." But Donna says her work is not done.
I just think people have forgotten 6 months later. They don't really realize the struggle that people have. They think insurance just paid out and everything's just back to normal.
Donna's hoping to find a new location for her hub nearby. We'll keep you posted on her progress.
And that is it for our special report, Sandy, the long road home. I'm Harry Martin.
And I'm Steve Lacey. Thanks for being with us. Good night.